In the age of corporate virtue signaling and hyper curated philanthropy, the Archewell's Foundation's decision to sever ties with the Milwaukee Muslim Women's Coalition exemplifies a deepening crisis at the heart of public charity work, the creeping conflation of compassion with conformity. And my concerns are twofold. Number one, that the mural, which lies apparently at the heart of the reason why Archewell broke its links, and the statements by Janan Najib go back about a year. And so for the last year, they've been supporting this charity, which has been promoting this particular ideology. And the ideology is derivative. I don't believe that the charity was responsible for the mural, though they may have publicised it. And at its best, a charity ought to be a site of moral hospitality, where those from divergent political, theological, and cultural traditions are united not by complete agreement, but by the common service of a particular good. Yet in this case, a $55,700 grant, modest by Archewell standards, was rescinded following a blog post by the MMWC's founder, Janan Najab, and a blog post about a year old. And her pro-Palestinian statements, including reference to the controversial phrase "from the river to the sea," were considered incompatible with Archewell's values. This despite the very same foundation touting its mission as one of building bridges across difference. Let's be clear. There is no excuse for swastikas, even daubed in the centre of a sepia-tinted image, and no tolerance for fascist symbols in public life. But the line between protesting a state or making a protest about a state's descent into belligerence and promoting hate must be drawn with precision. Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, and even the International Court of Justice have described Israeli policies in occupied territories as de facto apartheid. I'm not sure I entirely agree, but they are pushing in that direction in the same way as, Owen Jones says, they're pushing in the direction of genocide. In fact, Owen Jones goes further. Owen Jones would use the term apartheid and genocide to describe exactly what's happening in Gaza at the moment because of the Israeli war. I don't go that far. I certainly go as far as to criticize Netanyahu and the current leadership of the Israeli government. If citing those conclusions, however, disqualifies a charity partner, one must ask, is Archewell supporting dialogue or merely curating optics? And that's the point. And people who've left comments after my previous post about this subject are missing the one vital point, that this is a year brewing. This has been left standing for a year. Why did it suddenly become important now, a year down the line? The danger is this. In a rush to dissociate from ugly supporters, the moral mission becomes a PR algorithm. It shifts from doing good to looking good. And a foundation that began with lofty ideals of inclusion, resilience, and healing now risks becoming a philanthropic echo chamber where moral ambiguity is too risky for the brand and the real-world complexity of Palestinian suffering is filtered out for fear of headlines. Charity by its very nature must be broader than a hashtag. And not everyone who disagrees with Israeli policy is advocating for violence, even if they have endorsed on occasion a year ago a foolish slogan or a foolish image. Not everyone who uses such language or such imagery intends hatred. They might simply be intending to suggest a convergence of bad behaviour. Indeed, the very populations being served, Afghan refugee women in this case, are caught in the webs of war, displacement, and identity politics that do not map neatly onto American or British sensibilities. And if these communities must now vet their founders' tweets, affiliations, and blog posts before receiving support, what are we witnessing? We're not witnessing bridge building, we're witnessing ideological credibility or credentials. And that isn't appropriate. Let's contrast that with the ideal, a world in which Jewish and Palestinian charities could be funded simultaneously by a single organisation, not as a moral contradiction, but as a moral imperative, where supporting Afghan women doesn't require disavowing every personal conviction that their champions may hold, where solidarity is not censored, and compassion is not conditional on political neatness. The irony is that Archewell's own founding ethos to uplift and to unite communities, one act of compassion at a time, is undermined by the act of severing support precisely where unity is most difficult. One doesn't encourage tolerance by demanding silence. One doesn't support further peace by withdrawing from dialogue. One doesn't defend human dignity by denying it to the people one set out to help. To quote George Orwell, if liberty means anything at all, it means the right to tell people what they do not want to hear. If the charitable realm is to take that on board, that should mean embracing those with whom we disagree, especially when they've been doing the difficult work of healing, stitching, and serving on the margins of society. Archewell may well have distanced itself from controversy, but in doing so, it's distanced itself from the complexity, the imperfection, the real messy humanity that charity was always meant to embrace. And it's done so a year down the line. A year down the line. So I don't know. This is all about the PR of Archewell and not about the Milwaukee Muslim Women's Coalition. And I find that disturbing. I find it disturbing. And the this sort of troll approach of suggesting that I haven't done my homework or that I haven't seen these visuals is absurd. Simply because I don't mention something, it doesn't mean I haven't seen it. I choose not to. I thought about whether or not I should make a thumbnail out of that image, and I've chosen not to because I think it's not an image that should be promoted. And I'm sure the Milwaukee Muslim Women's Charity is embarrassed that it's that its founder promoted that idea, and she's had a year to think about from the river to the sea nonsense, and the significance of that. But it's and again, it's not about either or. It's about building bridges. I think Archewell has behaved wrongly, and I hope I've made a case about why I think that. I'd be interested to know what you think.